Hi, this is Sarah Connolly for the Alcohol Free Lifestyle Podcast. In previous episodes, I've explained that there are 4 key factors that come into play when we're dealing with substance use disorder: the genetics, the psychology, the social, and the spiritual. Most people understand the first 3, but when we move into the spiritual realm, people can get confused and or even turned off by the idea. In this episode, I'm going to dive into what spirituality actually means in the context of addiction. And to be clear, we're not talking about any specific religion or dogma. While some people may have a deep faith and religious practice, it doesn't of course mean that they don't have challenges with alcohol or other addictions. I'd like to begin by sharing a few words from an anonymous source that highlights our sense of self and reality, underpinned by the spiritual aspect of being. Don't undermine your worth by comparing yourself with others. It is because we are different that each of us is special. Don't set your goals by what other people deem important. Only you know what is best for you. Don't take for granted the things closest to your heart. Cling to them as you would your life, for without them, life is meaningless. Don't let your life slip through your fingers, living in the past or for the future. By living your life day by day, you live all the days of your life. Don't give up when you still have something to give. Nothing is really over until the moment you stop trying. Don't be afraid to admit that you are less than perfect. It is this fragile thread that binds us to each other. Don't be afraid to encounter risks. It is by taking chances that we learn how to be brave. Don't shut love out of your life by saying it's impossible to find. The quickest way to receive love is to give love. The fastest way to lose love is to hold it too tightly. And the best way to keep love is to give it wings. Don't dismiss your dream. To be without dreams is to be without hope. To be without hope is to be without purpose. Don't run through life so fast that you forget not only where you've been, but also where you're going. Life is not a race, but a journey to be savoured every step of the way. The words shared in this reading highlight what is the spiritual in the context of being human and dealing with that. These are the things we can't understand directly through the senses. They are ways of being, a way of looking at life through a certain lens. And it offers the possibility that in order to feel whole and complete, like nothing is missing in our lives, we need to be able to let go of some things and we need to hold on to others. Spirituality is, if you like, the practice of being present to our lives and being open to seeing and appreciating life as it is, not as we want it or feel like it should be. Spirituality and addiction are very much interconnected. They're part of human existence that has been explored for centuries. Whatever the addiction, whether it be substance abuse, behavioural addictions, or other destructive habits, we can find ourselves becoming totally consumed. The focus on the addiction overwhelms us so much that it can take us away from our true self. Many people struggling with addiction feel lost, like they don't know themselves anymore, and the ability to feel peaceful and connected within themselves was either never available to them or it got lost somewhere along the way. Being disconnected in this way can cause great pain and suffering. We can find ourselves completely at the mercy of cravings, urges, and drives that we feel we simply cannot control. Any sense of inner strength is overwhelmed by impulse, and so we cling on to the drink or the drug to provide some sense of control or escape. When the addictive substance plays the role of the saviour in some way, the thing that provides release and respite from the chaos going on inside, it's no wonder that it can be so hard to let go of. However, whenever we rely on an external source to provide safety and comfort, we will always be left wanting. Nothing seems to work long term. Not the drink, the drug, the food, the work, the money. Furthermore, as time moves on, we find ourselves needing more of it. The hole inside we're trying to fill gets bigger and bigger. In contrast, spirituality and the connection or reconnection with ourselves seeks to give us a sense of peace inside that heals and repairs the part of us that got lost, giving us a sense that we can be complete, safe and whole simply by looking inward and finding our peace there. Spirituality also seeks to connect us with a higher purpose and a sense of unity with the world around us so that we don't feel so isolated and alone. It is often said the opposite of addiction is connection, and I would say that connection with ourselves is the most important one of all. So let's take a dive into the relationship between spirituality and addiction and explore how the practices, or spiritual practices if you like, can help in the process of healing and recovering from substance use disorders. It's widely accepted and acknowledged that addiction or substance use disorder is way more than just physiological dependency. The physical parts of addiction are obvious and evident, but the roots of our behaviours often stem from more emotional and psychological struggles. People often talk about the root cause. Now, many of us turn to substances or behaviours to escape from the root cause, to escape from the reality of our lives, to numb emotional pain or cope with stress. And for many of us, it can also be a way of handling trauma. When this is the case, the addiction can be seen more as a symptom, an effect of a deeper underlying issue, rather than just the cause of physical dependence. The role of spirituality in its essence is to explore the deeper questions of existence and meaning. It includes a range of beliefs, practices, and experiences that connect us with our inner self, others, and the universe. As I mentioned earlier, it's often associated with religious practices, but it's certainly not confined to any specific faith. Many people find spirituality through practices like mindfulness, meditation, yoga, connection with nature, or finding a sense of purpose in serving others. But it's important to make sure that when we are seeking a sense of connection with self, we are not looking outward for another thing to fix us. Yes, practices like mindfulness, yoga, walking in nature, and serving others are important and do help. But most importantly, we need to be able to cultivate an inner connection by ourselves, on ourselves, with ourselves. So we're not relying on something that can potentially be taken away from us in order to heal what's going on inside. In the context of addiction, this connection, this spirituality plays a pivotal role in moving us forward by healing and addressing deeper emotional and psychological parts of our challenges. The practices that we can undertake help us break free from the chains of these addictive behaviours and give us healthier ways of coping with life's challenges. So, what are these practices? Well, mindfulness is something that is often talked about, but I think perhaps not as well understood as it can be. And mindfulness is a wonderful practice because it's something that we can do every single moment of every single day. The stereotypical idea of sitting on a cushion and meditating tends to be quite inaccessible to a lot of us. We don't see ourselves as having the time to sit for 20 minutes. We don't see ourselves having the ability to shut down the mind for that long. And so it has all these different preconceived associations that turn us off. Mindfulness in its pure form is simply being present to the current moment. It's not about shutting down the mind, stopping thoughts from coming up. It's not about trying to prevent any particular thing or feeling or thought from happening. It's just about being more aware. The beauty about mindfulness is that it can come and go, and the skill is more in the learning of when it's gone than when it's there. As soon as we notice that we're not being mindful is the moment that we are being mindful. So mindfulness can be a really powerful tool because it allows us to become more conscious of the things that take us out of the present moment. These are the things that we call triggers and cravings and strong emotional responses or reactions. By cultivating self-awareness, we gain the ability to recognize the patterns that we fall into in certain circumstances. By being present in the moment, we can feel the pull of the craving, the pull of the impulse. We can notice which environments cause us to feel discomfort, perhaps even which people tend to trigger us. And when we're present to that, without judgment and without trying to change it, it gives us the opportunity to stop and create some space. When we create space between what triggers us and how we react to that, we are able to connect with the true self, the deepest part of us that is driven by our values, that is driven by our desires, our true desires, as opposed to the fleeting desires that come and go based on reactions to external stimuli. The more aware and conscious we become, the better we get at dealing with challenging situations. And over time, we start to learn to develop healthier ways of coping with these distractions. We start to learn the signs of when we are becoming overwhelmed or angry or upset. We notice the signs, we pay attention, we see what happens in the body and in the mind. And through this process of gaining awareness, we start to feel like we have more control over these impulses, emotions, and urges. It's likely that you are practicing this in certain areas of your life, particularly if you're in business, where it's not the done thing to immediately react to something that someone says or does that upsets or annoys you. You find a way of allowing the irritation to pass, or perhaps you allow the irritation to settle into the body, save it for later, and then try and get rid of that feeling with alcohol. Either way, you're not reacting to the situation in the moment based on certain ideas that you have about suitability and acceptability of your behavior. So it's very likely that you have experience of being mindful of your emotions. The next step from here is to be mindful with how you deal with the emotions. As I said, many of us will feel a lot of feelings throughout the day, many of which get ignored and pushed down because it wouldn't be the right moment or acceptable to express them. But rather than allowing these emotions to pass, we keep hold of them, we store them, and then by the end of the day, we are so filled up with pent-up tension and emotion that we feel the need to drink. With spiritual practices like mindfulness, we allow ourselves space and time to process the feeling. The feelings that come up as we notice them will only last up to about 2.5 minutes if we just let them pass. But we're in such a hurry to feel better that we either allow the emotion to explode out of us in the form of anger or frustration, or we push it down and repress it. The more we practice present moment awareness, as in really being present to what's going on without judgment and without fighting it, the more we start to realize that these emotions will not kill us. And if we just allow them to pass through they will pass, and then we will feel better. So a spiritual practice of mindfulness is extremely important. Getting present to how you deal with or don't deal with your emotions is a key part of learning how to gain control. And the more aware we become of our emotions and our reactions and responses to emotions, the better we become at choosing the ways in which we want to deal with those emotions and discomfort. We can start to choose healthier, more sustainable practices that don't lead us towards the drinks cabinet or the donuts or whatever it might be that we're trying to distract ourselves with from these uncomfortable feelings. So with mindfulness, we also have to cultivate the practice of accepting and letting go. Letting go of the need to control every part of our life is a big part of why we often find ourselves overwhelmed. We cannot control so much of what goes on around us and inside us. We can't control how other people behave. We can't control what other people do. We can't control a lot of what's happening in the world around us. So in order to get a sense of control, we try and control our emotions. The fact is, our emotions are a law unto themselves. As human beings, we have a multiple array of emotions that come and go at any given moment, and sometimes we have no idea why we're feeling a certain way. Letting go of the belief that we can control this is a really important step in finding our way towards recovering and healing from negative behaviours. The importance, therefore, of letting go is a really important and liberating realization. We stop trying to fight these feelings. We stop trying to push them down. We just, over time, simply learn to observe them, realize that they're just going to be around for a little while. We stop trying to make sense of them in our heads and create stories about them. And this makes the process of letting these emotions go very, very simple. We can even stop labeling them as bad emotions or good emotions. We become more equanimous, more balanced about how we see our emotions. And the more we become that way towards them, the easier it becomes to just allow them to be and allow them to pass. One of the most spiritual things that I observe as a coach is seeing the power of interconnectedness and connection with others. As I said earlier, addiction is often seen as the opposite of connection. When people decide that they're going to quit alcohol, in this example, they often feel like they are the only person on the planet who is dealing with all of these often very deep and dark feelings. They feel very alone. They feel that they have no one to talk to. And they feel like if they do speak out, they'll be judged or criticized. When we are in the groups with like-minded people who relate to one another, the power of this connection cannot be ignored. Having a group of like-minded people who share their feelings, their vulnerabilities, their experiences, and you can actually recognize yourself in what they share, is a spiritual practice in and of itself. Because what it does is it makes us realize at a deep level that we are not alone, that we are on so many levels all the same, struggling with the same things, feeling shame for the same things, feeling guilt, feeling anxiety. We stop feeling like we are all on our own in this. Isolation is a real catalyst for turning to alcohol or other substitutes. Isolation makes the individual feel so alone and scared and afraid. And I can say with confidence as a coach in the Project 90 program that I am yet to have somebody come through the program that has shared something that not one other person has not either felt or experienced in their life. We need connection. And this is a huge part of what I believe to be one of the most important spiritual practices. And I'd just like to add in there that it's not a superficial connection that we're talking about. It's a deep, authentic, vulnerable connection. When we have the experience of being able to be truly open and vulnerable with another human being, something happens inside. There is this sense of relief. There is a sense of letting go, a sense of freedom. And this is what we're talking about when we talk about spirituality. This happens at a very deep level. It's not small talk. It's not superficial. It is deep healing that happens when these types of connections are made. When I was drinking, one of the things that I found the hardest to deal with was this deep understanding and awareness that I was not living to the values which I thought I upheld in my life. This is where I felt this real sense of incongruence between how I was behaving and what I believed. So when we're addicted to something, it can leave us feeling very detached from our values and from any sense of real purpose. And a spiritual exploration of this can involve reconnecting or redefining or rediscovering our values and passions and a higher sense of purpose beyond immediate gratification. By exploring at a deeper level, what are our true values? What do we really want to get from our lives? What lies underneath this desire for instant gratification? We start to understand at a very deep level that if we want to be truly fulfilled in our lives, we must get very clear on what our values are. Not only that, but we must also have or cultivate the courage and determination to live to our values. This is a very important and deep part of the work, identifying what is most important to us and why, and then working out how we can live to these values on a day-to-day basis so that we feel connected, that we feel proud, that we have self-respect, that we hold on to all of the things that we have potentially let go of through our addictive behaviors. These are the things that will ground us in those moments where we might feel uncomfortable or like we want to give up. We want to move beyond this immediate gratification cycle. And when we have a higher sense of purpose, we have more meaning in our lives, we become much more motivated to keep going and to work towards a future that we really want and are really going to be proud of. Our values act as an inner compass, if you like, which we can use to direct us when we feel like we're going off track. And when we're living in alignment with our values, we cultivate a deep sense of inner peace inside. This is in itself a very deep spiritual practice.
James Swanwick here. Just a quick interruption to share some of the relationship breakthroughs that folks have been having inside of our Project 90 Stop Drinking process. Joe Worley from Michigan says, "My wife has the real Joe back." Andrus from Minnesota says, "I'm a better dad." Dave Kelly from Australia says, "I feel so much more connected to friends, family, and colleagues." And Angela, also from Australia, says, "I'm spending more time with my kids." So if improving your relationships is your motivation or one of your motivations for stopping drinking and you would like some professional outside support, I invite you to go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90, watch the video, read some of the words on the page, learn about our process, and if it feels like it could be for you, you're welcome to schedule a free 15-minute complimentary call with one of our coaches. All right, let's get back to the episode.
To summarize what we've covered so far, the spiritual practices are things like mindfulness, cultivating present moment awareness, spending as much time as possible in the present moment. And a good technique for doing this is to, at little moments throughout the day, just stop for a moment and pause. You can say in your mind, I am here now, to bring yourself back to the present moment. You can have a tool like a stress ball, or maybe just looking out of the window and focusing on something in nature that reorients you back into the present moment. You can do something as simple as just focusing on your feet just for a few moments, feeling them connected to the earth. That's a really great way of grounding yourself into the present moment. And you may also have perhaps visual things around you that you can look at. Maybe once or twice a day, you make it a habit of looking up at a particular photo or looking out of the window to look at a particular tree. All of these things reminding yourself that you are here in this life now, and it will take you out of what is often what we do, which is stay up in our heads the whole time, thinking about the past, thinking or worrying about the future, and not paying attention to what is actually happening in the moment. The next thing I talked about was connection. This can be really hard for people, especially those that are living in isolated areas. Thankfully, we have the internet and there are many, many online support groups that you can join. I highly encourage you, if you're struggling with any kind of addictions, to research, go online and find either an online group or a group in your area just to try it, just to see. All you need is one person that you can connect with on a deep level to start accessing that part of you that perhaps has been so isolated for so long. Connection is crucial for recovery. And so if nothing else, I highly encourage you to find someone that you can talk to, that you can share with, and that you can feel safe and comfortable with while you navigate your way through your challenges. Finding a meaning and purpose, as I've mentioned, is also very, very powerful. If you can take time to consider what are your deepest values, if you could choose how to live your life, what would those underlying values be? Love, connection, kindness, adventure, all the things that you find meaning in, real meaning, not just superficial meaning. So that when those moments arise where you feel distracted and uncomfortable, you have something to lean on. You have some core anchors, core values that you can come back to. These are the things that will help in those instant gratification seeking moments, because you know that if you go down the easy path, as in taking the shortcut, it's actually going against what it is that you truly want for your life. This is another very important spiritual practice, and one that we need to do every single day, because it is so easy to get sidetracked and distracted by external influences. I'm going to finish off this podcast by addressing some of the things in the reading that I started out with. The first part was about not comparing our worth with others. Can we start to see ourselves as we are, special and unique? Comparing ourselves to others is a cycle of self-destruction. And the reality is we never know what's going on for other people. We only see the surface, and it's likely that they only see that in you. It's quite possible that while you're comparing yourself to someone else, thinking that they're better than you in some way, they're doing the same to you. So hold on to that knowledge that you are totally unique and special in this world. That is your unique gift, and comparing yourselves to others is really just going to make you feel like shit. Theodore Roosevelt once said, comparison is the thief of joy. And I think that is so true. When we compare our achievements with anybody else in a negative way, we take out any of the joy that we may have felt in the moment that we achieved something. So don't sell yourself short. Don't take away your own joy by comparing yourself to other people. The next line talks about setting goals by what other people deem important. If we chase after what we think we should be doing or should be going for because of what other people have told us, inevitably at some point we're going to lose our motivation, our drive, because it's not what we really want. So when you focus on your goals, try and be really clear that they are the things that you want, not the things that either society or your parents or your peers have influenced you into believing are the things that you want. The things that you have chosen for yourself based on your own unique values and desires. If we are driven by what other people want, the motivation invariably runs out after a while. If we are clear and driven by the things that we truly believe in and the things that we want, the motivation is limitless. Don't be afraid to admit that you are less than perfect. It is this fragile thread that binds us to each other. We can often feel like we have to have this outward presentation to the world and that we need to be perfect all the time. Nobody is perfect. There's never been a perfect person. When we can let go of this ideal version of ourselves, these extremely high standards that we often have, and the shoulds, I should be this, I should be that, it's incredibly freeing. It not only frees us inside, but it also frees us outside in relation to other people. No one wants to spend time with a perfect person. No one wants to be around somebody that has all the answers. And deep down, nobody wants to be around people who don't know how to be vulnerable. The more vulnerable and open we are about our idiosyncrasies and our unique oddness of being human, the more connected we become to other people, because everybody is feeling the same way. Everybody is feeling less than. Everybody is feeling that they should be better. Everyone's not feeling good enough. So let's unite in our imperfections and stop pretending that we all have these amazing, perfect, wonderful lives, which just serves to make us all feel terrible at the end of the day, because we're either pretending or we're comparing, and neither of those things leads to satisfaction and happiness. The final thing I'll touch on is the idea of dismissing our dreams. It says that to be without dreams is to be without hope, and to be without hope is to be without purpose. Hope is the number one thing that we need to focus on when we make the decision to move beyond addictive behaviours, because we don't know what life will be like without the substance that we've been relying on for so long. We must believe that there is something better on the other side. We must have hope. And dreams and ideas of things, of possibilities for us in the future can provide a sense of hope that whatever we decide to do and however we decide to do it, it will be worth it. It has to be worth it, because this journey, this uncovering of the true self, this getting to know who we really are, defining our values, making authentic, vulnerable connections is not easy. It should be easy because that's really what we're here to do, in my belief. But we've become so distracted from what's most important in life and so attached to things that are so temporary that we've forgotten that everything that we have and everything that we need is inside of us. And it can be brought out, can be brought into the light, it can be brought into awareness through what these multiple distractions that are around us in the world that we live in have distracted us from all the things that we already have, all the things that are there inside of us. We have been conditioned to believe that the answers lie elsewhere, maybe in the alcohol or the behavior or the television or the food or the books. We've been conditioned to believe that we don't have what we need, so we must look outside of ourselves. The true spiritual practice is the practice of getting to know who you are underneath all of this. Who is the person that is experiencing this life? Who is the person that is being influenced by all of these things? Can you step back through these practices, being more present, being more loving, being more connected, spending time focused on the present moment? Can you become more in touch with your true nature, with what's really important? The more we practice this, the more freedom we find, the more peace, the more clarity, the more desire to continue to live a life where we can feel all of those things more and more regularly. We are more and more attuned to our environment. We are more and more in touch with what it is that we need in every moment. And the more that we cultivate this, the more that we trust in this, and the more that we let go of all the things that we've been holding on to, the more spiritual our life becomes. The more spiritual our life becomes, the happier, more peaceful, more fulfilled, and more purposeful we are in our lives. Thank you for listening. This is Sarah Connolly, coach in the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle Program. And for all information about the programs that we offer, you can find in the text below this podcast.
Hi there, this is James Swanwick. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I would be so grateful if you would leave a review. That will help us climb the rankings and get our show exposed to so many more people who could really benefit from the content. You can do that by going into Apple Podcasts, rating the show, writing a little one-sentence summary, and posting it. That would be so amazing. Thank you. Likewise, if you would like to schedule a 15-minute exploratory call and apply for our Project 90 program, then you can do so by going to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. If you'd like to get the free guide, that is the Alcohol Freedom Formula Guide, you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. Our YouTube channel is at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/YouTube. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at James Swanwick. Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you, and we'll catch you on the next one.